Hello, Dippers, and welcome to Volume 30 of Hysteria. As always, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Saucy Pod. Listen to us on iTunes and Spotify. And with me, as always, our St. Louis correspondent, Mr. Hoig.
You know, Leighton, if people listen to the show, they're aware that I'm not a huge Westbrook fan. And he's been in the media here a little bit lately. I just want to talk about him for a quick second. You know, he had a very poor shooting game against Dallas about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and he was asked after the game, about his shooting performances, and he says, I'm more than just a scorer. I'm the best rebounder at my position. I'm the best defender at my position. I'm the best passer at my position. Well, if you're a guard and you rebound well in this NBA, that's like being, a right tackle who says, they can catch passes well. It's not really needed. And then also, he talks about being one of the best defenders. He's never made an All-NBA defensive team. And, as far as being the best passer in the league, I don't think Kevin Durant left because he was getting too many passes from Russell Westbrook. And more so about Russell's shooting performances this year. Among players who qualify, he's last in three-point percentage, 108th in field goal percentage, 123rd in free throw percentage. In effective field goal percentage, he's 125th. And as a result of this poor shooting, the Thunder as a team are last in the NBA in team three-point percentage. Russell Westbrook's shooting percentage from the free throw line has gone from 85 to 74, now all the way down to 63. I'm not a huge fan of Russell Westbrook, and I think this season is really epitomizing why.
Yeah, I mean, did you happen to say his free throw percentage?
Yeah, 63%.
Well, hey, it's gone for 61.
Say what?
It was 61 a few weeks ago. Oh, so it's improving.
So you're hopping on that bandwagon, aren't you?
It's going to improve.
Here we go.
It's going to be great.
Mr. Triple-Double.
Yes. Well, Dippers, this week we have an absolutely loaded show for you. Before we get to that, we got to drop the noise.
Humpday. Who's Hysteria?
A Sauce on the Side production.
And on today's loaded show, Tom Thibodeau got fired, Jimmy Butler might not work out in Philly, and Luke Walton stepped up to the plate and doing a very coaching move of calling out his players. We have the best Flips on the Fly questions yet, and we got a little college basketball and talk about a prospect. So we'll start with Tom Thibodeau. He had officially been fired by Minnesota Timberwolves.
Woohoo!
He was not only the head coach, he was also the head of basketball operations. He had 98 and 107 record as head coach. The team has substantially underachieved in his tenure. They have star players like Karl-Anthony Towns and Jimmy Butler, and potential star Andrew Wiggins. He's been highly criticized on this show, so we obviously agree with this move. The question is this the right time to make the move?
Well, Leighton, there's never a wrong time to make the right move. That's the thing you got to figure out first. With Tom Thibodeau, I didn't like the idea of him being the president of basketball operations. You look at how he's created this team. He's basically created Chicago West for the Bulls, and it's really hasn't panned out well for him. The guys in their prime didn't work for the Bulls in 2011. They're sure as hell not going to work in 2018 or 19 or 17 in Minnesota. So, it was the right move to make. He'd be an okay head coach. He's not willing to adapt to the modern NBA, but even worse than not being able to adapt to the modern NBA, he wouldn't construct a team to the modern NBA either. And so, rightfully so, he lost his job.
I think the only thing wrong with this move is that it didn't happen soon enough.
Yeah,
Fortunately, the Timberwolves got really lucky and already have Karl-Anthony Towns signed for like 5 years. Andrew Wiggins, who's still only 22 years old, signed for 4 more years. So they still have the good young players there.
Right.
Tom Thibodeau, he's coached the NBA now for almost 15 years, counting assistantships and stuff. Do you think he's done, or do you think he'll just move to a front office role? What's next with Tom Thibodeau?
I'm sure Tom Thibodeau will get another hire in about a year or two. In between his stint between the Bulls and the Timberwolves, he spent time on the Warriors staff. People really thought maybe he figured some stuff up there and got enlightened a little bit as far as how minutes and coaching and stuff work in the NBA. Obviously, didn't fucking happen. That was epitomized when Jimmy Butler was leaving, and he said, "How many minutes did I play tonight?" And somebody told him, "You played 40 minutes tonight." This is before he got traded from Minnesota. They said, "You played 40 minutes tonight," and he goes, "Well, we got fucking 14 other guys. Why don't we play a little other guys, some other minutes, so I'm not out here, grinding away on my body." But Tom Thibodeau, he's not going to coach again in the NBA for another year or two, I'm sure. he'll find a way to get onto his staff. He is smart as far as defense goes, and I think that's where he kind of belongs as an assistant.
Who do you think will be the next hire for the Timberwolves? I know they're looking at Fred Hoiberg, who hilariously followed Tom Thibodeau in Chicago, and Tom Thibodeau got fired from there. Do you have any idea or a good idea who you think they want to have?
Well, it would be funny if Fred Hoiberg did replace him, because then it really would just be, Chicago West 2.0 all over again, kind of, with the way the sequence of events would have worked. On Monday you guys mentioned Tyronn Lue, and he sounds like a nice fit. Tyronn Lue's not going to coach again this year, and when he does make a return back to the NBA, many anticipate that it will be as an assistant of some sort, kind of work his way back into a coaching position that he finds suitable for him. But if he came back this year, I would be more than shocked. One guy I would like to hear be considered for this job is, and people have mentioned it to some extent, not very much though, is Monty Williams. They have an interim coach now, but Monty Williams coached. He was an assistant coach for the. He's been around, but most recent stints, he was an assistant coach with the Thunder, head coach for the Pelicans back in the day. Before they had Boogie, that kind of stuff, and serves as a Team USA basketball coach as well. I think he would be a guy good fit for that job. He would be able to relate to the players younger. I think Monty Williams would be a good fit. They mentioned Fred Hoiberg. I don't know how well that'll work. I think Fred Hoiberg was wrongly fired in Chicago. He didn't perform well. The team didn't perform well, but at the same time, if you're a 5-star chef, you got to have good ingredients to make a good dish. Fred Hoiberg never had those ingredients really, so if they went Fred Hoiberg, it wouldn't be the worst thing ever. I anticipate them writing out the interim coach and then interviewing in the offseason, but I would like to see Monty Williams get the job. One
guy I brought up almost immediately was Chauncey Billups. They wanted him to be the head coach or GM. We all know he's a very successful player. Now he's a successful guy in the media. Another successful point guard turned coach was Derek Fisher. I know he had a deal with the New York Knicks and their odd-ass owner and what's his guy's name?
James Dolan.
They had a deal with the bullshit with Phil Jackson. Do you like Chauncey Billups for this job, or do you think you want to see him work in coaching some other way first?
I'll tell you what. When David Griffin, the previous GM for the Cavaliers, was fired by Dan Gilbert, one of the guys who was considered for the job before they ultimately hired Kobe Altman was Chauncey Billups. Chauncey Billups, we all know what he was as a player. He's a well-spoken guy. He's a pretty smart guy, just hearing him on TV. I don't know if that's the best option, and hiring a guy who has... I know he's a great player. I know he was a great player, and I know he's smart. I know he's well-spoken, just based on what you see on the TV and stuff. I don't know if that would actually translate to him being a good front office guy or a good coach. I really just don't know. That's not me saying I think he's not that great or not fit for the job. I literally just don't know. You can see guys who go on TV and have a personality and talk about things enough, and then they get hired. And my perfect example of that is John Gruden with the Raiders. He left football and talked about football so long on Monday Night Football that he got hired. I don't know if it's the same thing with Chauncey Billups. I would like to see Chauncey Billups in the NBA at some point. I think he's smart enough to do it. I think awarding him to the top of the pedestal like they did with Thibodeau, though, would probably be a mistake.
And now I'm on the second headline. A guy Tibbs used to coach, Jimmy Butler. We all know Jimmy Butler early season got traded from the Timberwolves to the 76ers. Well, and since the trade, things haven't gone the great for Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler, we know, used to be a star player in Chicago. When he was really young, he was playing great basketball. People thought he'd be the next superstar. Well, this season, just on Philadelphia, he's averaging 18 points a game, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. He's still a good defender, but it's not working out. Well, he was very vocal since he got there when we more ball in the offense. I guess this boiled over during a film session, and he aggressively challenged head coach Brett Brown. In an interview, Brett Brown said that he didn't feel he crossed the line. Jimmy Butler has said since then they talk every day about how to make everything work on this team. Since, however, people in the organization have come out and said that he might not fit the Sixers culture. And first off, it's hilarious that for those 76ers think they have some other culture other than tanking right now. What do you make of this matter, and will anything come of it ultimately?
Well, Jimmy Butler and Fred Hoiberg, I'm still on the Timberwolves here, but Jimmy Butler and Brett Brown, they did get into it. And both guys have you hinted at it. Both guys have said no line was crossed. They felt like it was in the spirit of wanting to make things better. Nothing personal. Two just intense guys wanting to be better at their jobs and their craft. And I get that. That's okay, you know. Where Jimmy Butler's frustrations lie within the offense, though, what he's talking about is kind of how he and Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are all being used. When he was in Minnesota, he was averaging about 20 pick and rolls a game, Jimmy Butler was. And I know that in your head you're like, well, let's just do a Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid pick and roll. That makes enough sense, right? But the thing is, Ben Simmons just literally cannot shoot a lick. And so there's always that help defender coming off of Ben Simmons helping in on the pick and roll. So it makes things very tough for a Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid pick and roll to succeed. So they wind up using different guys in that pick and roll, whether it's Ben Simmons or they just have diminished his pick and rolls. He's running about 10 pick and rolls a game now. But what it has is, since Joel Embiid isn't typically the roll man with Jimmy Butler now, Joel Embiid is really being relegated to that stretch five, which is where you see this frustration come in at. Joel Embiid's like, I want to do my thing on the block. I want to catch my ball in the mid-post on the move, that kind of thing. And now I'm being relegated just hitting at the three-point line. And Brett Brown's like, well, Ben Simmons is our point guard. We got to have him out there. And these three, big personalities, really high-level caliber players are just not meshing together on the court. And so I don't know how to fix that other than, time and Ben Simmons developing some sort of outside game.
Okay, well, talk to Jimmy Butler. He had a player option for next season. He's going to opt out of it close to $20 million. He'll be 30 years old.
Yep.
Do you think Philadelphia will sign him? How much do you think he's even worth right now? Is he worth a max contract for somebody?
Well, I'll tell you what, he would get a max contract from somebody right now. He's not going to – the only way he would opt into his current deal is if he was injured and the injury sidelined him into next year as well. That's the only way that he would opt into this player deal. Opting into the player deal for next year and then playing out next year, he would be, coming up on 31 at that point. He would be even more hard bargain to get more money. So he's going to opt out of that and get a max contract. Somebody would give him a max contract, whether it's the Knicks, the Nets, the Clippers. Somebody's going to give Jimmy Butler a deal, just depending on who it is. Of course, Philadelphia would love to get him. Though they would love to bring back Jimmy Butler and then try to find more shooters to add with Ben Simmons and then, pray that Ben Simmons finds a way to develop this outside game.
What do you think happened with the 76ers this season?
What do you mean?
Like, we know that they have good young players, and Jerry Red's good shooter, a good guy off the bench. How far do you think they'll go this season with this core they have? Or eventually, will it work out, if I'm asking you?
Yeah, okay. So, they're 7-3 in their last 10, so whatever they've been doing in their last 10 games, they're finding a way to make things click. They're now tied with the 76ers. They're now tied with the Pacers, excuse me, for third in the East. They have talent. I mean, that's not disguise that at all. They have talent. They have guys who can come off the bench and score and shoot, but there are clear limitations with this team, and so that's what I want people to be aware of when talking about the 76ers. They could realistically make it to the Eastern Conference Finals or the semifinals, but I don't see them getting past Toronto and Milwaukee. So they're okay. They're definitely they're going to improve from last year. I think on where they made it in the playoffs or make it to at least the second round again. But they have star power, no doubt, but they have clear deficiencies as well.
All right, now I move on to a team that might be interested in Jimmy Butler's services next season: Los Angeles Lakers.
Hey.
Last week, Lakers head coach Luke Walton publicly criticized Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram for not stepping up in LeBron's absence. It's kind of the first time he's had this kind of criticized publicly. Well, last night the Lakers got a rare win without LeBron, and Ball and Ingram acknowledged that Walton's comments had impacted how they played, and it's probably the best game they had all season. So it's about time Walton told his players to step up, right?
Yeah, that's one thing, I like Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball, what they bring to the table as far as players, but, they're kind of like Andrew Wiggins in this sense. Like, they could go out there and get a double-double, and I wouldn't remember one stat of that double-double, you know what I mean? Like, Lonzo Ball does certain things on a court that make players want to play with him. Brandon Ingram does certain things on a court that good scorers do. They just need to be more demonstrative and more aggressive in their approach on the floor. And that sometimes that equates to more baskets, that equates to more fouls, better defense, whatever the case may be. But Luke Walton, there's don't just think he's calling out players right now. They're like there had to have been a series of events or a chain of sequences occur where he's like, I need you guys to step up more. I need you guys to step up more. Show me more. And eventually he said, fuck it. I'm going to go out to the public with this and let everybody know, hey, this is what I expect from them. And without LeBron or even with LeBron, that's what they need to give. Kyle Kuzma shows up to the court every single night and gives it all, whether LeBron's there or not. And he's really blossomed into their second best player, their most consistent player outside of LeBron. So I think Luke Walton was definitely in the right in doing this.
Yeah, and you talked about Lonzo Ball and Ingram. They're both having probably the worst season. Well, Lonzo Ball had his worst season. Ben Ingram's having his rookie season. Do you know what Lonzo Ball is shooting from the free throw line right now?
I do know it's very poor. The exact number I don't know.
It's 41%.
Yeah, I knew it was pretty bad.
Now, they can fix that, but I just want to say that is crazy, and that's overall the junior being to the court more. But, so we know Walton called them out, and when you're at work and your boss gets on you for not doing something right, you do it right for, maybe a week or 2 weeks. Do you think this is like a kind of one-night thing? Do you think it would carry over for the rest of the season with them?
This is going to be a stupid answer, but I think a little bit of both. They definitely popped when Luke Walton called them out, and I'm glad they did, and I hope that lights a fire under them. But that was definitely like a high-point game for them. That would be a high-point game for a lot of younger players. But I do expect them to pick it up to some extent throughout the rest of the year, or for at least a foreseeable stretch of games. But to think that they're going to continue with the clip that they had the other night for the rest of the time, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you, because for one, it's just hard to do that every single game, especially in the NBA when you just don't see it. And it's hard for players who have played a point they have all season to do it consistently when they are still, 20 and 22 years old.
Right.
And now we move on to Fletcher on the Fly. This is a segment where I ask Fletcher 3 questions. He didn't know what it's about, and no time to answer them on the fly. This is probably the best questions I've had in time doing the show with you. These are most likelies. So basically, is one more likely to do this, or to do the other?
Okay.
Which is more likely? James Harden wins his second consecutive MVP award, or a team not named the Warriors wins the NBA championship?
Which one's more likely?
Yes.
And you're asking me, will Harden win his second MVP, or a team outside of the Warriors win the championship? Yeah, I think it's more likely that the Raptors or Bucks could win the title versus James Harden winning a second MVP. I think James Harden's stretch right now that he's on is really, really impressive, but it almost mirrors that of Matt Carpenter's stretch during the Major League Baseball season. If he continues it, that'd be great. But to think that he's going to continue to put up these numbers the rest of the year and not, get injured or anything like that, I have my doubts. I have my reservations. And if he does continue it, for this clip with this kind of usage rate, we know he's going to flatline in the playoffs bad. So yeah. Chris Paul is going to come back. I think the load's going to lighten for James Harden some.
So you pick a team not named Warriors win the championship.
Yep.
All right. Our second question: what's more likely, Jimmy Butler gets traded for a second time this season, or Luke Walton gets traded or fired? Luke Walton gets fired.
Jimmy Butler's not going anywhere, so I guess we're going to have to say that Luke Walton is going to be the one who gets fired, but I hope that doesn't happen.
Super unlikely still, yeah.
I think so.
And our last question, what's more likely, Bill Self leaves Kansas for another program, or the NBA, or hell freezes over?
He's not leaving Kansas. Why would he? He's got the ultimate job security. He's just not leaving Kansas. That's all it's coming down to.
There's no way he leaves Kansas. I mean, they're going to have to win the 15th straight Big 12 title, how many they have now.
That's insane.
That's called consistent success, Fletcher. That's what you want out of your head coach.
I met Bill Self.
You did? Where?
Down in Kentucky. He was scouting Josh Jackson when Josh Jackson was a junior in high school. And I walked by him, and I remember, I didn't think anything of it, because it was me in an empty gym, and I was like, oh shit, that was Bill Self. I turned around and I said, hey coach. I said, how about a picture? He says, yeah, it's fine. And his assistant's there. I don't know if you ever see Kansas bench, but look for the black assistant coach with the long slick back hair. And I said, hey, I looked at him. I said, would you mind taking the picture of me and Coach Self? And he goes, what? You don't want to get a selfie with Bill Self? I was like, nah, I'd rather have you take it.
Yep. So wait, you didn't call him Bill, you call him Coach?
Yeah, my dad told me that, even if he wasn't your coach, you still call him coach as a term of respect.
All right. Well, there you go, people. You want to be respectful to coaches, or you call him Coach. Regardless if it's high school, middle school, wherever, you call him Coach.
Right.
And now that takes us right into a college basketball segment. The Kansas Jayhawks got dominated by Iowa State last Saturday night. But worse than that, they lost center Aduku Azubuike, one of the best rim protectors in the entire country, for the season. For sure, they were your pick to win the NCAA championship at the end of the year. What did this do for the title chances?
Oh, man. I still think they're going to win the Big 12. I still think they're going to have a top 4 seed. Don't get me wrong. But, I mean, you're looking at, Azubuike as a really dominant center, especially on defense and, rebounding on offense and defense. But even offense, he was providing sparks for them, And I said they were going to have 40 minutes of rim protection with Azubuike and David McCormick. And then who was the other big man that they lost as well? His name slips me right now to the FBI investigation.
Oh, crap. I'll look it up, but...
Yeah, go ahead and look that up. But, yeah, so they've lost a couple guys. They're down on height. And I was saying, Kansas, sure, they can go play small for the rest of the year. Like, that would be a very Kansas thing for them to do. They have guards, and they're always top in the nation for defensive field goal percentage. And so when you combine that rim protection with that pressure up front, I mean, that was going to be a defense that was just going to blanket teams. And not having that's a big blow. They're still going to be good, and they're still going to be competitive. But thinking that they or the juggernaut kind of force that they were and that they were going to be in March, I don't know. It's not quite as where it was. It's not as resound as it was before the injury.
So, yeah, and we all know Bill Self, great, fantastic coach. One of the best coaches in college basketball. Do you think they still win the Big 12? You get it all figured out?
They're going to win the regular season title, I'm sure. Conference time, who knows? I'm going to pick them to win the postseason conference tournament as well, though.
All right, the center's name is Silvio De Sousa.
Okay.
The one that got held out.
Another guy got taken by the FBI too soon.
Poor bastards.
Yep.
Right. And now we move on to our college scouting portion of the show. We're going to do it different this year. Last season, me and Fletcher would both pick a player and scout them and kind of discuss them. This season, we're going to pick one guy and talk about him way more. So this season, today, we're going to start off with the top guy everyone knows in college basketball right now, Zion Williamson. You might know him from being a junior in high school or 16 in high school, with the head above the rim, insane dunks. But now he's 280 pounds, 6'7", plays at Duke. Just a tank, unstoppable human being, shooting 68% from the floor. Jay Billis came on the video today and said that he was number one pick in the draft. Fletcher, how do you feel about Zion Williamson going into the NBA, knowing just his size and inability to shoot threes and how he's going to play in the NBA?
Coming into the year, I was unsure. I'm like, I think I would take R.J. Barrett first. I might even take Cam Reddish second, just on their ability to shoot and play and all that. But Zion Williamson this year, I mean, he's averaging, almost 21 and 10. He's shooting 68% from the floor. But what's crazy is he's shooting 75% on 2-point field goals. Now, 3-point percentages, he's leaving some on the table there, shooting roughly 28%. But he's 6'7", he's 285 pounds, not an ounce of fat on the guy, and he runs like a deer, and he jumps like a freaking jackrabbit. It would take 2 NBA guys to slow him down right now. And so I say a guy that big, that talented, who can get to the rim whenever he wants, he's going to be able to finish through and over guys. Go ahead and just draft him and figure everything else out later. That's what I say. I tell you, take Zion number one. You don't see guys come around like this too often.
Huh.
What?
Really, number one overall?
Zion?
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah, dude. I mean, look, he can put the ball on the floor. He can pass the ball, shooting 68% from the field, rebounds with anybody. He's going to be able to finish through and over guys. Just draft him and figure everything else out after. That's what I say. I would do that.
You see, I know he knows like him before. Everything you said is true, but the way the NBA is played right now, I'm looking at RJ Barrett still because watching him play, he handles the ball so well and he can score in the lane so good. And if he can develop a 3-point shot, he already has the James Harden ability to drive and score like that. If he can develop a good 3-point shot, he could be a next James Harden. And NBA right now, you want a player like that can be a point guard, lead the team in scoring and assists, and do it all.
Yeah, I think what you're focusing on right now is too much of the negatives from the 3-point line. And we're talking a guy who shoots just below 30% from 3. We're not talking a guy who's Ben Simmons.
That's true. But R.J. Barrett, he still shoots good. He's 6'7", and he's a forward. So he shoots 52% from 3. He has 70 runs a game and 6 assists per game. Like, he's the whole package. He's the guy I'm taking #1 overall right now.
Yeah, at one point during the year, let's see here. How did it go again? Zion Williamson had missed fewer shots than R.J. Barrett had even taken. That kind of efficiency, getting to the rim like that, finishing over guys, through guys, it's amazing. When he gets to the NBA, he's going to have more tools available to him. He's going to have more spacing on the court, more lanes to drive, get to the basket. He's shooting 28%. You can see the jump shot starting to form on him. All you have to do is work on the mechanics a little more, keeping the elbow tighter. I think it would be only a matter of time before he had a serviceable jump shot. We're not talking Klay Thompson or anything, but Zion Williamson, it's so obvious to me that you should take him.
Yeah,
I mean, the sky is literally the limit.
Another thing you have to worry about in NBA is you're going to class and studying for all those tests.
Big time.
Right now, he's in the books hard, I'm sure. But NBA left his basketball.
Oh, yeah. You know he's definitely studying big on that American history right now, and that algebra.
Yep. I don't know. Right now, I'm taking R.J. Barrett. Just a style of play is mostly for the NBA. And this could all depend on who has him pick overall. If it's the Suns, and you really need a point guard, I think they lean more, R.J. Barrett. But if it's a team like the Knicks, they just need everything. I can see him taking Zion Williamson. But I have a team, it's R.J. Barrett.
I would take Zion Williamson, and it's not even at this point. It's becoming, the gap is getting larger and larger between Zion and R.J. Barrett, I think.
And that seems to be the consensus from everybody. But while we're on this other draft, real quick, I heard the topic today on another sports radio show. I just want to ask you: do you think how much do the Suns regret not taking Luka Doncic?
I was thinking about that the other day, and I don't think that they are the ones who are worried about not taking Luka Doncic. They have DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton's getting like 18 and 11 a game right now. Like there is no cause for concern with DeAndre Ayton whatsoever. I think even defensively, he's putting up pretty impressive numbers. Yeah, he's getting almost a block a game, and he's shooting 61% from the field, 78% from the free throw line. Like DeAndre Ayton is more than okay. Actually, I lied. He's getting 17 and 11. So his numbers are more than impressive. They definitely did the right thing in taking him. There are two teams that should be kicking themselves in the head really hard for not taking him. One, the Sacramento Kings, even though they have been doing okay. You look at more of like the positionless basketball, the pace and the space of the shooting. They could have a really interesting thing going there with De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Luka Doncic are on the court with Willie Cauley-Stein protecting the rim. And then another one, the Atlanta Hawks. They drafted him. They had him. And they literally traded him to get Trae Young. Now, granted, they have a top 5 first-round protected pick from the Mavericks for this upcoming draft. But we'll say the Mavericks get third. Then you get Luka Doncic, and then you get whoever. You're looking at Cam Reddish, R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamson for nothing. Those are two teams that should really be kicking themselves in the head. Yeah. And after I called Luka Doncic like this, you'd think you would take my advice on pre-draft stuff a little more to heart, I guess, but you're not. That's okay.
Hey, I'm not saying Zion is a bad prospect whatsoever. He'll probably be really good in the NBA. But right now, the way NBA is being played and seeing the success the Rockets are having with James Harden carrying them, I think R.J. Barrett and 3-4 years in the NBA could be a James Harden-like player. Well, definitely.
We'll see. That Zion's going to be better. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. We'll probably discuss R.J. Barrett next week, too, so I get your opinion on him.
Might as well.
All right, and I'll talk about the best team in the NBA right now. I'm talking Eastern Conference. The Bucks have fallen to the top spot, but that's basically just because they lost the head-to-head matchup with the Raptors only game they've lost. They're up by 20 against the Rockets right now. In my opinion, though, the Bucks are still a top team in the Eastern Conference. I feel like Giannis is to the point now we can carry a team. We know he can't shoot anything like that, but just his presence and his ability to do anything else on the floor just helps the Bucks over to that next level. And they're getting great play out of Middleton, Brook Lopez, guys from the bench. The Bucks are a really good, complete team right now.
Yeah, I'm going with the best team in the East is the Milwaukee Bucks. Still, I know they lost to Toronto not too long ago. They lost to them by 7, and Toronto had Kyle Lowry sitting out. But Milwaukee shot not that great from the three-point line. They missed about 23 three-pointers against the Toronto Raptors. So you slot in a couple more. Who knows how that game shakes out? I'm still going as the Bucks is the best team in the East right now.
All right, and our Western Conference, basically nothing's really changed. 1 through 5 are all the exact same from last week. Lakers hanging in the 8th spot. So I'm going to go with the Warriors. I know the Warriors right now are the most vulnerable they've been since this group came together. But that group is still together. A lot of that group is together, and no one's really hurt. They're getting Cousins back this week. I got to go with the Warriors.
Yeah, I'm with you. They got a winning record at home and on the road. They've won their last 2. Just because you're seeing signs of vulnerability from the Warriors doesn't mean they still can't win a title or that they're still not the best team in the NBA. They're one game behind the Denver Nuggets still, and I'm going to use the same reasoning I used last week. If we played a hypothetical, fictitious 7-game series starting tomorrow with the Nuggets and the Warriors, I would still pick the Warriors to win. So, and like you said, they have Boogie coming back. I'm going to stick with Golden State until something proves me otherwise.
I was watching the TV at the gym earlier and talking about the Warriors, and the question was, does Marcus Cousins make the Warriors unbeatable? If they weren't already, do you think Cousins definitely make it unbeatable?
If he can come back and play at a high level, I definitely think so.
All right. And the NBA, I got to stick with the Warriors. The Bucks were close, but that core is still together. It's the Warriors for me.
I'm actually going with the Bucks. Everything that I said last week, they have the positions, they have the length, they have the matchup, they have one of the best players in the NBA in Giannis Antetokounmpo. They've got length. I mean, they can provide so many mismatches, and then Giannis he makes everyone go. If he goes, and Chris Middleton and Eric Bledsoe, things are just that much easier for him. Bucks for me.
And I'm on to game of the week. My game of the week isn't a great matchup, but I'm picking it because this is the game pushing Marcus Cousins is playing. It's the Bulls at the Warriors. This should be a very one-sided matchup, but I want to see how Marcus Cousins does come back against a very physical center and Wendell Carter Jr. Fletcher, what do you got?
My game that I'm looking forward to the most is Saturday. Going to be on about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock this afternoon here. It's going to be Duke versus Florida State. Duke's number 1. Florida State's ranked 13th in the country. I think it's going to be a really good game. It's at Florida State. I'm really excited to see how this thing shakes out. You got your big dogs with Duke versus a really solid collective team at Florida State. I think it should be a good matchup.
Do you want to hear what Duke privilege is?
Lay it on me.
Waiting 14 games to play a true road game.
Yeah, maybe.
Yep. And with that, Dippers, this has been Volume 30 from the Hysteria. As always, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the Saucy Pod. Listen to us on iTunes and Spotify. From me, from Fletcher, as always, stay saucy.